My name's Allison Peck. I'm a technical author and writing skills trainer. I work mainly from home, but I also go and work on customer sites occasionally if either the equipment I need to use or the system I'm documenting requires it.
Can you describe to me what a technical author is?
If you think of anything that you buy, a mobile phone, a washing machine, a bit of computer software, you get some sort of manual or user guide with it. A technical author has written those. That's kind of the basic definition. We actually write about anything that has a more scientific or technical bent. It doesn't have to be IT, it can be engineering, can be gas oil, anything like that at all.
Okay, so can you talk me through your day then? What's a typical day like for you?
For me, a typical day for me, because I'm self-employed, I can choose my own times pretty much. I like to start about 7 o'clock in the morning and get a couple of hours work done before my clients get into the office. It's quite a good time for reading through what I did the day before, for checking things out, for doing a little bit of internet research as well without any interruptions. I then pick up whatever is my current project and work on that. It might be documenting a software system that I have access to at home. It might be editing or proofreading something I've previously written. I then take a break about 11 and either go to the gym or for a walk for a couple of hours, depending on, or shopping, depending on what the day is turning out like, and then come back to work about 1 and work through usually till about 5. Then in the evenings I do the business side of the stuff. A little bit, so because I'm self-employed, I have to do my invoices and my expenses. It doesn't take long, and it's better for me to spend half an hour regularly than suddenly have a mountain of stuff to do. I'm working on quite a few projects at the moment, but 2 of the main ones are for one company based in Nottingham that provides cooling systems for data centres and telecom centres. And for them at the moment, I'm actually doing the copywriting end of technical authoring. So I'm writing white papers and case studies and marketing materials. I've done the manuals for them already, and I've now moved on to the marketing stuff. That's one client. The other client I've only just recently started working for. It's an international company with sites all over the UK. For them, I'm having to go into their office because I'm actually documenting not for the people using the system, but for the people writing it. So when they get new members of staff coming in, they know what is doing what and how it's doing it without having to sit and read through lots of computer code.
Okay, and a technical author, is this a new kind of work, or has people always done this job, or is it usually done in-house? How has it come about?
It varies. It's been going for a long time. My own professional body, the ISTC, has been going since the 1970s, so it's not new, and it was an amalgamation of 3 previous ones, so it's been around for a long time. Traditionally, people would be the person in the team, the software engineer, the mechanical engineer, the engine maker at Rolls-Royce, whatever it might be, who actually had a talent for writing. None of their colleagues would like to do it, so it would gradually become their job. And for people of my generation, that's how the vast majority of us got into it. We were doing something else, we started to write about it, we discovered we had a talent for explaining it to other people, and it moved on from there.
Okay, can you talk me through some of the good and bad points about being a technical author?
The good points, if you enjoy finding out how something works, it's fantastic. I actually enjoy what I'm doing at the moment is looking at databases, looking at web pages, and just working out how one thing is making the other thing work. If you've got that sort of mind that you enjoy inquiring, you'll probably enjoy it. You need an attention to detail, you need all that kind of stuff as well. That's the good stuff, that's the enjoyable stuff. It can be quite satisfying to get some information across to somebody in a way they understand when they're not experts. The downside is that you are often fighting an uphill battle. If you're employed as a technical author, that's great, because that usually means that people know what value you can bring. What you sometimes find is that you are brought into a company or employed purely because the developers are too expensive, the engineers are too expensive. They think there might be a better way of doing it, because after all there's this perception that, well, anybody can write. It's something we do at school. You know, I've done a degree, I can write. It's different when you're trying to write for a particular audience. What I've considered three of my big successes have been companies where I have started as a contract technical author, pretty much on that basis. They got documentation and they hadn't got time to do it, rather than they wanted a technical author. And my last job was to interview a full-time technical author for them because they saw a difference that it made. So that, to me, for my profession, was a huge bonus and a source of satisfaction and pride, really.
Brilliant. What are some of the challenges that you face?
The challenges are, for me personally, it's trying to convince people that I can pick up the tool I'm using to write the documentation is irrelevant. That's not true of every technical author, but I find that I pick them up quite quickly, so I really don't mind. If you have got something obscure you want me to use, as long as I can have a few hours to play with it, that's okay.
Alison, can you then just talk me through the different areas a technical author could get into?
Very, very wide. You can be a technical author in an industry sector. So you could work in the oil and gas, for example, in banking and finance, that's an area of speciality, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, any industry you can think of, any business sector. You can work in sectors in the sense of IT or mechanical engineering or electrical engineering. So you could have those that sort of cross-segment with the previous industries. You can also be a technical author who writes for end users, which is my main focus, but not exclusively, or someone who documents for experienced users, so other producers of the same product, in-house engineers, software developers, right down to the very technical level for when two systems need to talk to each other. So sometimes you need to do the documentation for that as well. Add to that, technical authors do business processes quite often. And occasionally, if you work for a big company, such as Microsoft or IBM, you will find yourself working in a technical authoring team usually. You'll get a lot of experience, but you tend to find that you're focusing on one product set at a time, or one product group at a time. If you work for a smaller company, which is the way I did it, you tend to find that gradually anything that involves words comes through you at some point, which means you get a bit of experience across the whole spectrum, which included user guides and manuals, training materials, presentations, PowerPoint presentations, simulations, software simulations and training materials, so that you can click on something and work your way through something that actually isn't the software itself at all, but just looks like it. Web pages, online help, wikis. People have heard of Wikipedia, so technical authors will often use wikis to document their processes, or are starting to. And we're starting to get involved in all sorts of other user assistance, as it's broadly known now as well. So that includes things like podcasts and video, although they're not areas that I'm into myself, but there are technical authors who do. That's quite a wide spectrum of things.
Listen, can you just tell me about some of the misconceptions that people might have about being a technical author?
Some people think it's just a case of taking the documents that someone else has written and making them look pretty. That's one of my bugbears. There's far more to it than just making it look pretty. I'm not saying that's not important, it is. It helps you understand what's written if it's laid out clearly, and it's easy to follow in that sense as well. So it is important, but it's not the only thing. People tend to think that because they know the subject well and they can write in English, that anyone can write a technical manual. Unfortunately as well, what they've got to compare and hold up as their yardstick is something that's been very badly translated from an overseas writer who perhaps writes brilliantly in their own language, but English isn't it. And when you're reading it and you're scratching your head and trying to work out what it means, you're thinking, this is stupid. Why would anyone want to do this? They're no good anyway. Unfortunately, they had the bad examples. Not all written by non-native speakers, I hasten to add. Some of them are written by people who just know the product too well.
Yeah.
And make assumptions. So they know what it is they think the reader should be learning about. Oh. And they go into teaching mode.